why do we turn away from love? This is heaven and hell. We've been sold the idea that living in hell is a safer bet, which I think is very interesting. We've been sold the idea that living in hell is a safer bet. Love in your mind produces love in your life. This is heaven. Fear in your mind creates fear in your life. Hell. Why have we been sold the idea that hell is a safer bet? Because that resonates within me. I feel like I do that within myself. I can witness that within myself. Like why does the human in the modern or ancient world do that? And where does that originate from your perspective?
Well, there's the theological answer and there is the psychological answer. So first of all, I think it's so interesting that you can say so casually now, because it's now part of the modern lexicon. This was not true 30 years ago. You assumed your audience would understand the thought, that thought creates our reality. Mm-hmm. That's like major. That's major. You didn't even feel the need to explain that part. So we start from there. The idea that thought is the level of cause and our human experience is the level of effect, that our human experience is like a screen onto which we project our thoughts. Reason and the law of cause and effect, which is in essence the law of karma, is that all thought creates form on some level. That's what the Course in Miracles says. All thought creates form on some level. And also an idea doesn't leave its source. So whatever I'm thinking about you, I cannot help thinking about me. I will have an instinctive desire to blame you because I'm trying to get rid of my guilt, my thoughts of guilt, but really I'm only going to feel more guilty. The golden rule says, do unto others as you would have others do unto you. And the reason is because they will. And even if they don't, you'll feel like they did. Now, where did this hellish loop come from? So let's talk about this theologically and psychologically. If you look at it theologically, the Course in Miracles says that it all started millions of years ago in time as we know it, although in reality it never happened at all. Because love is all it is. Love is the mind of God. It's the total oceanic field of love in which out of which we are all born, from which we could never be disconnected. It is all that is, and what is all-encompassing, the Course says, can have no opposite. So in a moment when the first loveless thought was thought, that cracked the field. It introduced a fracture into the field. But in reality, it never happened at all, because if you're having a thought that's not love, you're actually not thinking, you're hallucinating. Now, when this happened, which was millions of years ago in time as we know it, it was, the Course in Miracles calls it the detour into fear. The Course says it's the moment when the Son of God forgot to laugh. And it's the metaphysical meaning of the phrase, the original sin. It was the original non-loving thought. Now, so love being the answer to every problem, the moment the problem occurs because love is perfect. What would love do at that moment that we chose a non-loving thought? Well, it wouldn't force us back to love because love does not force. But in that moment, there was created in our consciousness the alternative. In books like the Urantia book, it's called the thought adjuster, right? In books like, in Christic theological perspective, it's the notion of the Holy Spirit, an eternal communication link between God and the separated sons. Now, let's talk about it psychologically. All thought, because of who you are, every thought you think has power. So if you think and creates form on some level, if you think a loving thought, you're extending love and all kinds of wonderful things are going to happen and your life is more likely to work. If you think a non-loving thought, your power is not diminished. Nothing you can do can diminish the power of your mind. You can misuse the power of your mind. So when we use the power of the mind in a way that is loveless, instead of extending love, we are projecting fear. And every thought of love, which is the awareness of our oneness, creates heaven for ourselves and others, not later but now, life is good, we're happy, relationships work, etc. If I'm not, if I'm withholding love, if I'm judging, if I'm blaming, if I'm holding a grievance, if I've got a grudge, I'm holding on to the past, I'm just talking about, I'm trash talking, whatever, I'm still having an effect. I'm still having an effect. Now, your question was, why would you do that? That's because all thought is intentional. So the nature of thought is not only creative, it's intentional, but it's intentional in whatever direction it's moving. So just like a loving thought is self-love, a loveless thought is in essence self-hate. So your fearful thought, and to me, a good analogy to this is alcoholism. Addiction is not just out to inconvenience you. It's out to kill you. One of the things I say in AA, which is a profound statement of universal spiritual truth, they talk about alcoholism and they say it's a progressive disease. The word inertia means the tendency of the object to move in whatever direction it's been moving until the introduction of a counterforce. So your loveless thoughts are not simply non-creative, they're dangerous. Another example to me is perfect that we all see it is in our romantic relationships. You loved this guy. Why did you say that? How could you have been so stupid? Why did you call? Why did you text? Why did you ask for that? You're like, what happened? What happened? Because that mind disconnected from love, which is called in the Course the ego mind, I love how it says the Course says its dictates in love is seek but do not find. That you're always seeking, but you are always tempted. Lead us not into temptation. Well, actually, it's leave us not, because God would never lead you into. Leave us not in temptation, but deliver us from evil. This world we live in is a thought system based on fear. We are constantly tempted to find fault. And where there is the greatest love, there's an old saying, love brings up everything unlike itself. So we've all done things that we look back on and go, how could I have been so stupid? And we begin to realize, oh, there is something in me. There is some subconscious force that was out to destroy that which I most love. Now, what modern psychotherapy does a lot is, well, let's explore your childhood to see where that came from. That's like saying the room is dark, so we're going to take out a baseball bat and try to hit the darkness. No, you have to. The only way to get rid of the darkness is turn on the light. And the only way to get rid of the fear is to turn on the love. Love is to fear what light is to darkness. And so that's when you replace that old model with praying for the person that you love. The spiritual path is a retraining of our attitudinal muscle, just like doing yoga, just like doing mind training. We live in a world, particularly today, we're living in a very mean-spirited moment.